Where was I? Yes, entry 202-A-14. I've been studying the Kroot now for some time. Let me recap what my studies have brought me to so far, for the convenience of the Ordos Xenos. Point A. Physiology. Their physiology is somewhat stronger than the usual human being, bearing long, sharp quills from their heads and an avian-style beak. It is said to be inherited from their avian ancestry. They stand at a good half-meter taller than humans, and they support clawed feet and hands. A unique and intriguing feature for the Kroot carnivores is that they assimilate DNA of anything they consume. This leads them to favour stronger foes in combat. A good example would be a Kroot campaign against the Orcs, in which the Kroot quickly gained muscle mass due to eating orc meat. This leads some Kroot warbands to look drastically different. Some even reported to have sported wings, though I've yet to witness such a sight in person. Interesting to note that both chaotic and tyrannid flesh is poisonous and dangerous to the Kroot, and typically will not be devoured by them. Point B. Legacy. Their homeworld, Petch, was assimilated into the Tau Empire quite some time ago, and usually therefore ally themselves with the Tau. Petch is an interesting planet. Most of the creatures from that particular world are evolutionary cousins or dead ends of the Kroot, including their Kroot warhounds, Krootox, Narlox, and the elusive Kroothawk. Their alliance with the Tau isn't always the case, however, and have been hired in the past as mercenaries to other species, including our own. It seems the exclusivity contract between themselves and the Tau does not always have their interests at heart, which is the desire and need to collect the flesh of stronger opponents. Point C. Culture. The carnivorous behaviours of the Kroot isn't just for physical benefits. They consider the act of doing so to be keeping the warrior's spirit of the consumed opponent. It's also worthy to note that the aforementioned Kroothawk seems to be a sacred beast to the Kroot, and possibly thought to be their evolutionary ancestor. Their customs are also rigidly followed as well, and are normally led by a Shaper, a shamanistic leader. The Kroot that I have personally come into contact with, well, the least hostile ones, are pragmatic of a sort, and lack emotion and in some cases compassion, especially for their opponents. The handful, if even that, of Kroot that reside here in the Gilead system all seem to operate from the same Kroot war sphere called the How Marok. Rather ancient piece of technology, these war spheres. Giant ships that have come from their homeland of Petch. This war sphere resides hidden in the Voidmire, and while I have not been there to see it for myself, my last subject told me of it, though was reluctant to give me any more information other than that. Most humans and agents of the Imperium will find these creatures to be intolerable, especially without good cause for being where they are, and will be approached with hostility or mistrust. Kroot, irrespective of their savage demeanour, are focused and formidable allies. They thrive in battle, adapting to technology and fighting styles to improve their combat skills and eventually each to become stronger still. Interestingly enough though, I did manage to record some of the conversations I had with one particular Kroot. His voice was typical of that of a Kroot, with avian-like caws, whistles and clicks, and a slight rasp. I'll play those for you now.
Greetings, Victor. What calls me to your study?
Come now, Drakesh. Take a seat. Have a drink. Nothing for you to worry about. Just want a little chat.
Very well. Do you have a job you wish to hire me for? An opponent to fight? Someone powerful, yes?
Yes. Now, drink with me first. You must be thirsty after such a long trip, no?
What is this? Poison?
Welcome to the first Rock N Roleplay Species Guide, and with the new 9th edition Tau Codex on the horizon, I thought we would take a look at role-playing the Kroot. Thanks to the Doctor's transmission at the start there, We already have an idea about their physical appearance, a little about their typical characteristics and behaviours, and also their culture and their place within the Gilead system. But what about actually building one in the Wrath and Glory rules system? Kroot are one of a few species introduced to us in the Forsaken Systems Player's Guide supplement book, accompanied by their own Tier 1 archetype, the Kroot Mercenary. I'd suggest reading through the species and archetype information to get a sense of how Kroot are portrayed in this system before beginning. When picking the species, just like when picking one of the others from the core rulebook, it comes with its own skills and abilities baked into an XP cost. With a speed of 7, you're a little faster than some of the other species in the core rulebook, and you're granted skills for the XP cost to reflect your more agile and stealthy nature. It's interesting to note that the special ability for the Kroot species are Kroot mutations, vastly different attribute boosts and abilities that can help make your character vastly different from anything else, including other Kroot. There are 11 in total, and you get to pick one for every tier that your character is at the beginning of play. Some are marked as not readily suitable for the start of play with an asterisk. Once you ascend, you gain another mutation. This relies heavily on the types of opponent you've been fighting and consuming, but as always, is subject to discussion with your GM. You cannot, however, consume the flesh of Tyranids or Chaos Warped beings, or the mechanical parts of Necrons, Wraithguard or Skitarii. An optional rule to do when generating your Kroot character is to roll a 12-sided die and take the result to randomise your Kroot mutation, rolling again if you roll a 12. Let's deep dive into these mutations one by one alphabetically. Aladari Eater. So, your tastes are a little more on the fancy side. This mutation assumes that you have preyed upon Aladari and gives you a permanent +1 to agility and willpower. Armoured Hide. This assumes that you've eaten the flesh of something tough with a strong hide or skin. The examples from the book say a Grox or Amble, but equally it could be a Nethrian land dragon or Leviathan Wern of Avacaris from the Legacy rulebook, or something else entirely. In a Necromundan setting, this could be a Sumpcroc or even a Chimerix. As a result, you gain plus your current rank to your base resilience. Astartes Eater. So you like your food processed and in a tin can, huh? Astartes are genetically and biologically enhanced, and are a definite choice for the Kroot. Eating the flesh of one offers you a +2 to any attribute of your choice. Bioluminescence. Ooh, shiny. So you've eaten the flesh of a bioluminescent creature. Now, I've scoured my resources and I can't find something specifically bioluminescent in the lore books, but it doesn't mean I haven't overlooked something. There could be giant insects on planets dripping with bioluminescent hemolymph, the insectoid equivalent to blood. This gives your Kroot the ability to emit light upon will to see a 10-metre radius in the dark. Camouflage. If you can't see the food, does it count as calories? Eating the flesh of any creature that has the ability to manipulate its appearance grants the effects of the chameleon in Cloak with a simple action. This grants you a +1 bonus die to stealth tests and a +1 to defense when in shadow or cover. A Necromundan example of this could be a Fear Cat. Whilst not necessarily hosting an appearance-changing ability in the rules of Necromunda, they are exceptionally stealthy, and there would be nothing stopping you from implementing this as a rule yourself. Facultative bipedalism. Ordering extra drumsticks? Eating the flesh of anything that uses 4 legs to walk grants you the mouthful ability Facultative bipedalism. This means that your back can hunch and arms extend to offer an advantage to running and moving. You can sprint twice as fast as normal, and gain plus double rank bonus die when making jumps or climbing tests. This can be a great number of different creatures. Just think 4 legs and you're on the right track. Hypersensitive quills. Nice and spicy. Eating the flesh of something with enhanced senses will offer this ability to you. You gain the Auspex ability, activated as a combat action to detect energy emissions, motion and other life signs, but only up to 30 metres. Once again, prime examples are Ambles or Clawed Fiends. A Necromundan version would also be the Chimerix. Man-Eater. Sometimes you just got to eat. Eating the flesh of humans offers you the simple bump of a +1 to your lowest attribute. Your choice if you have several at an equal score. Orc Eater. Green is healthy, right? The fungal-based flesh of the orc is full of protein and nutrients. Weaponized biology. Why use cutlery when your hands can be your own knife and fork? Eating the flesh of something that has pincers, claws or venom sacs, you gain the ability to grow these yourselves. Your unarmed strikes deal your strength plus 4 damage, plus another 3 extra damage dice, and you gain one of the following traits: brutal, rending, inflict poison, or parry. Example creatures include clawed fiends or the Catachan devils. Wings. Nothing like a bucket of wings to satiate your hunger. This transformation takes months of agony to grow, but afterwards you gain light, leathery wings. This grants you a fly speed with a value of 7. Example creatures include razor wings or the Wyvak. A Necromundan example of this would be sheenbirds. Weaponry and technology. Whilst most Kroot are assimilated into the Tau Empire, Kroot prefer to use their own weaponry and technology, which to some can seem a little rudimentary. The Kroot rifle is the main staple of the Kroot. This rifle traditionally fires a solid slug via a chemical reaction in the chamber. However, Tau have also made variants that fire pulse rounds, bringing it more up to the bolt gun power standards. In Wrath and Glory, however, you'll be using the traditional slug version. It's also armed with blades at the muzzle and stock to act as a melee weapon in combat, and has melee stats to reflect this in Wrath and Glory. Other weapons that do not have rules but are Kroot specific include the Kroot hunting rifle, the Kroot bow, and the Kroot gun. The Kroot hunting rifle is a customised version of the Kroot rifle, adapted to be quieter and with longer range. There is currently no rules for this weapon, however a Kroot rifle with the silencer and the magnocular scope would be a perfect representation as one. The Kroot bow is a crossbow-like device that has a rotational firing mechanism. There are currently no rules for this weapon yet. And finally, there's the Kroot gun, a heavy weapon version of the Kroot rifle mounted to the backs of the mighty Krootox. And once again, there are no current rules for this weapon. A heavy stubber would probably be as close as you can get as representing this weapon though. Kroot wear minimal and basic armour, but this doesn't mean that it's haphazard in any way. Carefully crafted by themselves, it offers a protection to the more vulnerable areas of a Kroot whilst keeping their arms and legs free for quick movement. It offers an armour rating of 2. Now there are no equipment options for Kroot specifically yet. However, I've taken the time to look into examples of the sorts of things Kroot would have on them, just for flavour. Charms and totems. These trinkets would be made of natural resources such as wood and bone from their homeworld of Petch, and would be representative of their spiritual nature, depicting things like Kroot hawks or other powerful animals that they have fought or even venerate for their fighting prowess. Sometimes this comes in the form of war paints by mixing blood of those slain. A Kroot hawk totem in particular is said to grant foresight and could act as a point of meditation before an important battle or decision. As for available models, builds and a deep dive into the mercenary archetype, please see the Just My Archetype video on the Kroot Mercenary. Happy eating!